The OnePlus Nord 2 is a perfect upgrade to last year's OnePlus Nord. It is way more powerful, has much better camera hardware, the design, the speakers, battery size, charging speed, all these things have improved. So, is this the best phone to get under 30k right now? Well, the answer is a bit complicated. There are two things that make me a bit reluctant to recommend this phone. First one is Oxygen OS, or lack thereof. And the second one is even more concerning. There have been a few cases of the Nord 2 exploding. That is quite serious. Anyways, let's discuss all these things in detail. So without any further ado, let's get started. Starting with the design, this is one handsome looking phone. It looks and feels quite premium despite the fact that it has a plastic frame. The dimensions are quite manageable and the weight is also well balanced. For protection, you get Gorilla Glass 5 on both sides and the matte finish ensures no fingerprints or smudges. It doesn't have any IP rating, but it's definitely splash resistant based on this rubber gasket around the SIM tray. So in the design department, this is definitely a big improvement over last year's Nord, which had a very boring and generic design. Display is one area where OnePlus hasn't made any improvements. In fact, it is a small step back compared to last year's Nord. This is still a 90Hz AMOLED display, but it doesn't get as bright as last year's Nord. It also doesn't support HDR in Netflix unlike the original Nord. Still, it's a good display for daily use. It's just that other brands are offering way better displays for the same price, especially the Mi 11X and iQOO 7. Unlike the display, in the audio department, this phone is a big upgrade over its predecessor. This time around, there is a stereo speaker setup, and it gets pretty loud and also sounds good. Here is an audio sample. Obviously, it doesn't have a 3.5mm audio jack, as that is the trend nowadays, but unfortunately, it also doesn't come with any adapter to connect your wired headphones. Coming to the earpiece, it is perfectly loud and clear, so no complaints in this department. This phone has impressed me quite a bit in the camera department. It's still not perfect, but it is a big improvement over the original Nord. This time around, you get a really good sensor for your primary camera. That's the IMX766 from Sony, and it also has optical image stabilization. On paper, this is the best primary camera you can get under 30k right now, and the image samples also prove the same. The camera can capture some really beautiful shots. And because it's a big sensor, it creates a very nice natural bokeh with close-up shots. The HDR performance is also very impressive. Same is the case with low light performance. The ultra-wide angle camera can also take decent shots in good light, and it also has good color parity with the main camera. However, its dynamic range is not that good, and it completely falls apart at night. Coming to the selfie camera, I really like it. It has good dynamic range, even in portrait mode, and the night mode performance is very impressive. Switching to videos, the main camera can record 4K 30fps videos with stabilization. However, I wish OnePlus enables 4K 60 videos in the future, as the hardware definitely supports it. The ultra-wide angle camera can only do 1080p 30fps videos, that too without any kind of stabilization. In terms of selfie video capability, this phone is a downgrade compared to last year's Nord. Even though the sensor is pretty much the same, this time around you can only do 1080p 30fps instead of 4K 60fps of last year's Nord. That is quite disappointing. So, while the video recording capabilities are a bit underwhelming, at least the photos come out really nice. Oxygen OS. For years, this has been the biggest strength of OnePlus, and now in 2021, OnePlus decided to completely destroy it. This phone comes with Oppo's Color OS with an Oxygen OS-like theme and some of its apps. While it still remains bloatware free, it definitely feels quite different. The settings menu is not as detailed, there is no battery usage graph. The camera app is completely different. In fact, it is the same camera app that comes with all Oppo and Realme phones. It lacks the design aesthetic and convenience of the OnePlus camera app. However, one silver lining is that the camera app is at least more feature packed. For example, this camera app has night mode for selfies as well as pro mode for videos. These features are completely missing on my OnePlus 9 Pro. Still, the future of OnePlus software experience is quite unpredictable. OnePlus promises that the upcoming Unified OS will bring the best of Oxygen OS and Color OS. But in the meanwhile, the Android 12 update OnePlus has been pushing to its flagship phones has been a complete disaster, as it has been filled with bugs. So the future of OnePlus software experience is definitely a big concern. This is one area where OnePlus has made the biggest improvement. This phone is powered by MediaTek's Dimensity 1200 SoC. This is a really powerful chip with performance pretty close to Snapdragon 865. In normal mode, these are the benchmark scores, but you can turn on high performance mode from the battery settings and you'll get a much higher score. You'll also notice a difference in gaming performance in this mode. But after hearing about the exploding phone situation, I wanted to know more about the sustained performance, internal temperatures and thermal throttling. So these are the tests I performed, and the results from all these tests are pretty normal, in fact slightly better than normal for such a high performance chip. There is hardly any thermal throttling, and the temps are also well within limits. Even while gaming, I haven't experienced any abnormal heating or frame drops, and I've tested each of these games for at least 30 to 45 minutes non-stop. So in terms of performance, while this is not the best you can get in its price range, it is still pretty good, and it doesn't seem to have any problem sustaining that level of performance for a long duration. This year, the battery size and charging speed have been massively upgraded over last year's Nord. Now you get a 4500 mAh battery along with a super fast 65-watt charger. In terms of battery life, this phone has performed really well. In Work 3.0 battery test, it scores over 12 hours, which is really impressive. And in my real-world 18-hour day of heavy use, it was able to provide over 7 hours of screen on time, and here is its breakup. In terms of charging speed, this thing is crazy fast. You can get to 60% in just 15 minutes, and 100% comes in just 30 minutes flat. I also checked the internal and surface temperature while charging, and again there is nothing abnormal about it, so I'm very impressed with its battery performance. One of the nicest things of any OnePlus phone is the alert slider. It's super convenient and useful. Even the haptic feedback is really nice and precise. Coming to biometric security, the under-display fingerprint scanner works perfectly well. Same is the case with Face Unlock, though it is not as secured. In terms of sensors and connectivity, nothing is missing here, including NFC and Wi-Fi 6. In terms of 5G, this phone supports a lot of bands. Even for 4G, it has carrier aggregation and voice over Wi-Fi. So overall, nothing to complain about as far as network and connectivity is concerned. Alright, it's time for the conclusion. As you have seen in this video, this phone has delivered in almost every aspect, and while the future of its software experience is uncertain, currently it's working just fine, at least for someone who is not a hardcore Oxygen OS fan. Coming to the topic of exploding phones, I tried my best to push this phone to its limits, but it performed quite well. It hardly had any thermal throttling, and the temperatures were also within limits. So my guess is that those explosions were because of faulty batteries or some other reasons, but the issue is definitely not widespread. Otherwise, there wouldn't be 50,000 plus ratings on Amazon, most of which are extremely positive. Still, I feel OnePlus needs to be more transparent and inform us about what went wrong with each of those cases. So overall, it's a solid phone in my opinion, But as a reviewer, my job is to provide you with all the facts, both good and bad. Now it's up to you guys whether you should buy this phone or not. Alright, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. Please like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel down below. Thanks for watching.